iPhone 15 Pro versus Samsung Galaxy S24. This is a very exciting comparison, my friends, because these two phones are almost identical. They have the same size, the same shapes, the same ergonomics, almost the same internal components, the same set of cameras, but there is a very big price difference between the two. The iPhone is $1,200 and the S24 is $800. There is a very big price difference between the two, so I think it is important to know if the iPhone has some kind of edge over the S24 to justify being $400 more expensive, because if it's not, then you should go for the S24. As always, let me remind you, you have Amazon links with a discount for both phones down below in the description. So if at the end of the video you want to take a look or buy them, remember there's a discount link. As always, let's begin by talking about the exterior design, which, as I said earlier, it is pretty much identical. We have the same matte glass on the back, very soft, very premium. We have a very simple, elegant, and industrial look on both phones. Maybe the iPhone is a little bit more complex because we have this two-tone glass combining shiny glass and matte glass for the cameras, while on the S24 it's even more simple with just the camera bumps and no sort of design feature at all. You know, it's just a very, it's a plain sheet of matte glass with camera bumps. That's it. And we have pretty identical sides, a pretty identical shape. Maybe the only difference is the material. On the iPhone, we have titanium, and on the S24, we have the old boring aluminum. But I have to say, though, after using the titanium frames for a while on the iPhone 15 Pro, I don't really care. I mean, technically on paper it is more resistant, but aluminum is very resistant too. In fact, I don't think that was the issue in terms of durability with the phones. I don't think it was an issue with the aluminum. If you drop the phone, it's a lot more likely that the glass is going to shatter or that the internal components are going to get damaged way sooner and way easier than the aluminum would ever get stained or deformed. So I don't think they needed to include a even more resistant material. If anything, they should find a way to make glass less likely to break or shatter. So yeah, I don't think it's a big deal to have an aluminum frame on your phone. It's not going to make it more resistant. Also, they both weight about the same. Probably, most likely, it's not the same number, but I mean, feeling them both in my hands, I cannot notice any substantial difference. But I did notice that, and you probably can see it too on camera, the S24 has slightly thinner frames than the iPhone, and this was very surprising to me because when the iPhone came out, they said that it had the thinnest frames on any phone in the market. But I mean, maybe it's me, maybe I'm being biased towards Samsung, but I think it has slimmer bezels. What do you think? Tell me in the comments, but I actually think it's noticeably thinner on the S24, and it also has a way smaller pill. The iPhone has to include both the front-facing camera and Face ID, while Samsung only has to include a front-facing camera. So it's a lot smaller and makes the phone feel a lot more futuristic and a lot more, I guess, optimized. I don't know, whatever. It feels better to have just a little pill instead of the dynamic island. The only thing I would miss if I went for the S24 is the action button. As you can see, I have it set right now to toggle the flashlight, which is pretty boring, pretty basic. But I've seen some people do some crazy shit with the action button. There's a dude on the internet that managed using the action button to toggle the lights on his living room, his TV, his thermostat, a lot of things when he's at home, and when he is not home, it toggles a ton of other different things. So there's a lot of things you can do with the action button. In my case, personally, I'm very basic, so I just use it as a flashlight for when I want to go to the bathroom at 3 in the morning. But yeah, you can do a lot of things with the action button, and that's something you just don't have at all with the S24. You just have the basic volume buttons and the on and off button. When it comes to the internal components, as I said earlier, they both have the best of the best respective to their brand. The iPhone 15 Pro has the A17 Pro chip, and the S24 has the Snapdragon 8 Generation 3 chip, which are both, as I said, the best processors you can get for an iPhone and for an Android phone. This is not a big deal. This actually means nothing in general terms, but I wanted to show you the Geekbench 6 scores on both phones. The iPhone surprisingly gave me 2,900 points on the single core test, which is absolutely incredible for a phone. It's Pretty crazy. So yeah, any app that's very basic and it's only going to use one core to open and load, it's going to fly using an iPhone 15 Pro. While on the S24, we only got 2100 points, which is noticeably less in the single core score. But on the multi-core score, they are about the same. The iPhone has 7,100 points and the S24 has 6,800. This, of course, is going to vary a lot depending on the operating system, software update, and how long has the phone been on the market, because generally the longer the phone has been in the market and the more updates it has received, the higher this number is. So let me give you an example. When the iPhone 15 Pros came out, this was 6,900 and it's already gone up to 7,100. So probably, very likely, in a year time, the S24 is going to show 7,100, 7,100. So yeah, I don't think there's a huge difference when it comes to multi-core score on both phones. But anyways, just as a test, I've erased all the apps in the background because I want to show you how, in real life, so to say, how fast each phone is. Let's do Subway Surfers. They're both going to be pretty identical. I mean, they're both very fast, but I mean, look at that. The iPhone was a tad bit faster there, but just a little bit by 0.5 milliseconds. Let's do Call of Duty. This was probably, I'm tired, so I'm going to start it a little bit with my words. I'm also from Spain. I'm not Native American or British, so my English is a little off. Exactly the same. I was completely wrong. So they are both, as I said, they are both almost identical. Let me do the App Store, which is not the same app, but let's be fair, they both should have a fast, what? No, that cannot be true. Let me do it again. That felt like it was already loaded up in the background of the S24. Let me do it again. Clear all apps. They both have a completely clean slate. Let's open it up again. What? This is unbelievable. How did it not take any time at all on the S24? It felt like it was already open in the background. Like the iPhone gave me a very fast result, but the S24, that was insane. So, well, anyways, depends on the operating system update and tweaks to made to the app and little stuff like that, but they are both going to be generally as fast as each other. They are the best of the best for iOS and for Android. When it comes to the OS, unfortunately, neither of them has the new iOS 18 or the new Android 15 because those are only available on beta and they're not available to the general public. But they both do have the latest available public free to download versions of their OS. iOS has iOS 17.5.1, and on the S24 we have One UI 6.1 and Android 14. Of course, there's nothing to say here. I mean, nothing you don't know already. The iPhone offers a more closed up, well-rounded experience with a lot less customization options, but with access to the Apple ecosystem, if that's something you're interested in. And the S24 with Android and One UI offers a more open experience, so you can do a lot more things with the phone, and it's also a lot more customizable. So if you're kind of a geek like me, you really are going to appreciate something like the S24 for the amount of options you have for the phone. You can do pretty much whatever you want. You can really, if it's something, you can come up with something, you can probably do it on Android. You can actually, I think, emulate Windows on an Android phone. It's pretty insane. So yeah, the S24 is going to give you a lot more open and complete experience, but it's not going to be as well-rounded and perfected as iOS on the iPhone. But I have to say, though, and this is something a lot of people don't know, a misconception a lot of people have, is that the iPhone is a lot more optimized than a Samsung phone. And maybe that was the case back in the day, and I can definitely assure you that because 5-6 years ago, trying an iPhone as opposed to an Android phone, you could definitely notice how the iPhone was smoother and was more optimized. But nowadays, it is simply not the case. I've tried a bunch of phones with One UI 6.1, and they all work incredibly well. And I mean, no bugs, no hiccups, no weird stuff happening in the background. Just very smooth, very solid experience with any recent Samsung phone. I'm talking S21, S22, S24, of course, being the latest and greatest. So yeah, but besides the differences I just mentioned, me being, I don't want to say it again, but I'm going to say it again, iPhone being more closed up and having the Apple ecosystem, and the S24 having a more open and complete experience. Beyond those differences, you should not expect anything else if you buy either one of the phones. Both are going to give you a very well optimized experience. When it comes to the battery life, well, not much to say here. I mean, I compared both to the iPhone 15, and they both were a little bit worse. But I'm talking minutes here. Like maybe the iPhone 15 gave me 7 hours and 40 minutes of intensive use. This one gave me 7 hours, 30 minutes. This one gave me 7 hours, 35 minutes. Very, very close. And as I said, those little differences could be due to the software update or just something happening in the background when I was doing the test. So don't judge either one based on battery life, because they are both almost identical. The only real difference I found when it comes to the battery department, I guess, is that the iPhone has the MagSafe connectivity capability, so to say. You can connect it to any MagSafe accessories, which have magnets, and the iPhone has magnets. You can just plop it in there without any accessories, any mechanical systems or anything like that, which is very, very, very handy when maybe you want to connect your phone to the car and you don't want to be, buying special equipment and putting it there, and then you can't take it out without spending 2 minutes on wiring stuff. You can just plop it in the magnetic accessory and it works. Samsung was supposed to include something like that on the S24 and the S24 Ultra, but unfortunately they couldn't. There's this new QI Charge 2.0 standard that has magnets, and they were going to include it on the S24s, but they didn't have enough time, so it's probably going to come in the S25 series. Such a shame, to be honest, because I've tried it on the iPhone, and it's amazing. Then when it comes to the display, as I said, they are also pretty identical. They both have a 6.1-inch display, although the S24, I think this one, to be more specific, this one's 6.2 inches. This one is 6.15 inches, something like that. But they are almost identical. They both have about the same resolution, 120 hertz, an OLED panel. I think the S24 is a little brighter though, with 2600 nits of brightness as opposed to 2000 nits on the iPhone. But testing them both outside, I didn't really notice any difference, because the higher the number when it comes to nits, the less difference you will find going even further. So if you have so to say, let's use an example, 4,000 nit display, and you bump up to a 5,000 nit display, you're not going to notice any difference. And so the difference between 2,000 and 2,600 is also very small, but well, it is there. So technically, if we judge all the specs and want to declare a winner when it comes to the display, maybe I would say the S24 is the better phone when it comes to the display, because it has a slightly brighter display and it has, as I said earlier, slightly thinner frames. What was mind-boggling to me was that this is also the case with the cameras. They both have an almost identical camera system. They both have a 12 megapixel ultra-wide camera. They both have a 48/50 megapixel main sensor, 48 on the iPhone and 50 on the S24, but that's a very small difference. And they both have a 3x telephoto lens with 12 megapixels on the iPhone and 10 on the S24. But besides that, those little differences in megapixels, they are both the same. They both have about the same sensor size and lens quality. They both have about the same advancements in neural engines to process images. So the results and the capabilities you have with both phones when it comes to the camera are almost identical. Maybe the iPhone takes a little bit better main camera photos because it has a slightly bigger sensor, but then the S24 Ultra, the S24 can do 8K video recording. So kind of makes up for that lack of main photo quality, which is not really noticeable. I mean, I've taken a bunch of photos with both the same photo to compare which one was better. And unless it's like a photo taken with low light conditions or something like that, you won't really notice any difference between the two. So I could not give you a solid answer if you ask me which one has a better set of cameras. And as I said at the beginning, this makes for a very interesting comparison, because they both are pretty identical besides those little differences I mentioned during the video, but the price difference is absolutely insane. The iPhone is $1,200 and the S24 is only $800. So you would think the iPhone has something, right? Something super fancy and super luxurious that the S24 doesn't have. Maybe it is titanium, maybe it is being an iPhone, that Apple thinks, oh, it's an iPhone, so it should be $200 more expensive than anything else. But I don't know. It's one of those like gaps in the market where you can find something about as good for a lot less money in the case of the S24. And unless you are an Apple fan and you want to access the Apple ecosystem, I would recommend for you to go for the S24. If you were considering either one of these phones and you were curious to know which one was technically better, now they're both about the same. So go for the S24 because it is cheaper. As I said earlier, you have an Amazon link down below in the description for both phones with a discount. So now that the video is about to end, I recommend you go take a look. I hope you enjoyed the video. And as always, please, I hope to see you in the next one. Bye-bye.